Hey guys, welcome to Collecti-Bros. This is Bryan.
I'm Nate.
This is Barry.
And this week's topic is underrated games that are cheap. Underrated, underappreciated, however you want to word it. We've got a list of games, 3 each. We're going to explain why these games are underrated and underappreciated to us, discuss their pricing a little bit. But first we'll get into recent pickups, what we've been playing. Nate, you want to start this off with what you have been playing recently?
Sure. MLB The Show 22 just came out, so I have no life to that. Trying to play another game I can't talk about because it's for an episode of the podcast, but I've been no life in the show, so...
Yeah, I can second that. I've put many hours, especially just being on Game Pass. I can't even add to a recent pickup. I've just been playing the absolute mess out of the show. What else you been playing?
If you're inquiring that I've been playing anything that I've picked up, that's not the case. It just sits on my shelf.
That's how it always is,
I've been
right?
on a good little hunt lately. I picked up about 12 games in the last 2 weeks. Nothing too crazy. A couple limited run PS4 games. I think I've come to discover I've really enjoyed collecting for PS4 because I feel like I always find something. I did get Shenmue 3 for $5. I know it's not a loved game, but it's what I've been looking for. It's about what I wanted to pay for it. So I think the best one I could say I probably picked up is Barry actually turned me on to Breath of the Wild for Wii U. Has a variant. I don't know what you want to call it.
It's a first print variant.
For
a game I've never played.
I don't even have the console, so
We're about these variants, though. It's my bread and butter on the OG Xbox.
If you're wondering what the variant is, the back of the box has remotes that aren't compatible for it. So it's the Wiimote.
It is a 7-controller misprint.
Yeah, so it's got pictures of controllers that aren't compatible. So, we had to turn around the game store because we were half-assed looking other stuff up and kind of just stumbled onto it. And I was like, let's go back and look and see if they had those. And they did. So I think you got one too, right, Barry?
Well, the first store we went to that I thought had them, they didn't. And you were like, well, let's go to this other one. I'm like, oh, no, man. You're like, we're already over here. It's like, okay. And both the copies they had were first prints. And I was like, fuck it, let's pick them up. So
it's funny because the guy was kind of giving us shit. It's like, remember people bought this game on Wii U thinking it was going to be something weird? And we're like, yeah, well, we're over here buying this bullshit variant. So,
well, honestly, though, that game, it's the last release of that console, and 9 times out of 10, that's like a great swan song to send the console off. It runs great on Wii U. I mean, obviously better on Switch, but it's still
kind of a weird, obscure Zelda thing. I'll take that gimbal every time for what we pay $25-$30 for it. I think.
35.
I think I had like a 62-cent coupon too. So I think I had like
$1.60.
$4.70. It's a pretty great deal.
Yeah. I mean, it's a game where like you said, it's the last game printed for the Wii U, I believe. I could be wrong.
I think you're correct, yeah.
Secondly, it's Zelda. And thirdly, it's a misprint variant. So you spin misprint variant Zelda last game on a console. I will spend $30 on that spec.
Yeah, absolutely. That's probably the most exciting thing I picked up. Other than that, it's just a couple random for kind of a good mix from systems. Some 360 stuff. DS. It's kind of been a hot button lately, so saw a complete copy of Club Penguin. Had to pick that up for $1.
Hey.
Couple PS1 games. Power Move Wrestling is one I've been looking for a while. It's kind of up my alley. So, but yeah, overall, pretty happy with what I found. Barry, what did you procure lately?
Playing or procuring?
Procuring. Then we can talk about what you've been playing.
A stack. I suppose the three notable is I finally got Dragon Quest V on the DS, which I've been looking for that for a long time. It's the only one I'm missing. And I paid a cool $150 for it. So
good deal, though.
Let's hope they never remaster it and put it back out because I might be screwed out of that. But I got it for a deal, I feel like. So it's complete. I was happy to get that one because it's the last DS game I needed for the Dragon Quest games. And then, the thing that started the Zelda search was the Wii U shop shutting down. And I literally told Nate, I was like, hey, if you see Wind Waker or Twilight Princess, let me get those because they're not on the Switch yet and I don't have them on GameCube, so I was going to pick the Wii U ones up. And we went to a store and they had Twilight Princess, and I was like, it's $25 or whatever, that's cool. Like, let me check the price because I don't want to pay too much if I don't have to. And then I see it's going for like $80, and I was like, what? I was like, excuse me, what? And then I see the other Zelda first print, and I was like, what is this price? Which isn't, I don't think, quite right yet, but it has potential. So I got Twilight Princess on the Wii U for dirt cheap, I feel like, which is a good choice. And then I guess the other big purchase, I bought a retro tank, which I think Nate wants. Nate, you want one?
I've been looking at them for a really long time, and then after seeing yours, I'm like, I gotta make this purchase. I gotta pull in.
Yeah, so I have a Retron. So in my opinion, I like how all of the cartridge games runs on it. I think they look good, even they're emulated, which is fine with me. I don't really care, but they look crispy. And then I got the Retro Tank 2X multi-format, which is supposed to be geared more towards 3D PS2 era, and it's got progressive scan on it. So I guess I played a GameCube game on it with a S-video cable, and that boy looked nice.
Yeah, it looked really clean, man.
This is a nice choice.
I'm gonna have to get one.
I'll have to show it to you.
Nice. Yeah, I'm definitely interested in
Yeah.
it. I mean, usually I like to play on original hardware, but
It's technically original hardware.
right, that's
I
what's
use the
cool about
GameCube.
it. Right.
It just
So,
upscales.
Yeah, I need to get a Retron. That's something I need to invest in. But recently I was playing a podcast game. I don't want to say what it is. But yeah, I was playing it on a clone console. I was like, man, this looks like ass.
I don't think when that thing came out, that was like the best clone console.
Right. I've had that thing
We've
forever.
had that thing since we were kids, so
But yeah, it's time to upgrade to a Retron. And
I think you're a little past that.
yeah.
I will say there's one more thing I picked up on a sale, and it was Blue Reflection Second Light for the PS4, which I've been wanting to get for a while. I think I paid like $40 because it's new. But the first game is like a $200 PS4 game, and I have a feeling that Second Light is going to run probably the same at some point.
Yeah.
For one, it took forever to ship to me. I don't know why. I got 3 games. I got 2 of them, and then this other one took forever to get. I don't know. I'm assuming the stock numbers are low, but I have a feeling that this game is going to end up being one of those that people are like, oh no, I should have bought this. And there's not a lot printed, so.
Yeah, I was over here bragging about finding Shenmue 3 for $5, and there was a Blue Reflection 2 on clearance for $29.99. I should probably go back and get that, because every time you say, like, I think this could be a thing, 6 to 8 months later, I look at my app, and I'm like, oh my god, it's a $200 game now, so.
That's true. There's been many times where I'm like, Nate, you should buy this. And you're like, no. And I said, you should probably buy it.
When was the last time I was like, no, because like, ever since the one time I screwed
Thousand
up,
Arms.
that's the last time I did it, because I said, oh my god, so it's ever since then.
Yeah, so we found Thousand Arms for $40.
Wow.
And I said, yo, you need to get this game. And he's like, I don't know about this. So I was like, fuck you, I'm buying it. I already have another copy. So I bought it, and then I gave it to him for Christmas.
It's crazy. It wasn't even that long before Christmas. By the time I got it for Christmas, like already up to $150. I was like, I'm never saying no to you again. It's just, I'll figure it out, credit card it if I have to. If you're like, good to this, I'm like, okay. So
That's mine.
Yeah, I've only picked up one game recently. I've been on a major action figure kick. I mean, that's something I've always collected, but a lot of good ones hitting the shelves right now. A lot of AEW figures, a lot of Marvel Legends, but Spawn figures are great too, but this isn't an action figure podcast yet. So game pickup, the only recent one I had from Gamefly, they had a great sale where they had...
Wait, Gamefly still exists?
Surprisingly, yes. But honestly, no, like their sales for buying stuff, it's great because like all the cases and manuals are always in beautiful shape because they just sit around in a warehouse because they just ship the disc out. But I picked up Terminator on Xbox One, well-print game. I think it was on sale for like $25-$30. I've never seen it that cheap, so I was super thrilled to get that. And it's in immaculate condition when they sent it, so super thrilled for that. They had the PS4 version on there as well, and I know that's not as desirable because they released it and it's on PS5 also. But just for a heads up, it was on there. I still think it's available too at the time of this recording. As far as playing games, I beat Guardians of the Galaxy recently. I just can't say enough good things about that game. I really wish Avengers was like that game as well. But yeah, the story was great. It was like the perfect blend of comics and movies. Cannot say enough good things about that. Also started playing Disintegration. It's like a forgotten game that came out 2 or 3 years ago. Has multiplayer. The online has been shut down on it. But the single player is truly unique. The best way I can describe it, it's like an RTS. I don't want to say first-person shooter. You basically fly around this bike and you command your units, but you also have guns. It plays kind of like Forsaken, like you're controlling it, but you also move units around. And the units have different kinds of powers and abilities and everything. It's kind of, I think there's only like 12 levels, so it's not a super long game, but it's something that I started playing the multiplayer before it went offline and just got into the single player. I'm like, man, this game's pretty solid, especially I think it's only like $12. think it retails for $30. It's digital only. Xbox, PC, PS4. Yeah, that's pretty much what I've been playing and I bought. Barry, what have you been playing recently?
I have played a game for a podcast episode that I cannot talk about yet until then, but it is on the GameCube, so it's a little sneak peek there. I played BioShock, replayed it, and beat that one because I wanted to play BioShock Infinite, which I've not played before. And I quite enjoyed that game very much. More than the first one. I think it was better than the first one. The only thing you only got 2 guns, and then I had to like drop my shotgun if I wanted to pick something else up or whatever, so I couldn't have the full range, which they actually changed that in the DLC. So the Buried at Sea, I think it was called, they did the system in the first BioShock where you could pick up all of the weapons and then cycle through them. But I was actually talking to Nate before I played these. I was like, I want a BioShock prequel where it's like Rapture and it's in its full livelihood, where you can like see Rapture alive instead of just like as a disgusting, nasty place. And I played Buried at Sea and I was like, this is what I wanted. I wanted like a detective Rapture-esque stylized. I don't know. It was very enjoyable. I didn't enjoy the second episode as much, but the first one was really good. But overall, I think that is the strongest BioShock in my opinion. So I'm sad to see Irrational Games isn't around to do BioShock anymore, and they passed it off to some company who's never made a game at all. So we'll see how this one goes.
There's people from the original team on that studio, though. So it's either going to go great or terrible. There's not going to be an in-between.
Yeah, I suppose we'll see. Considering what happened at the end of Infinite, like, there's literally an infinite possibilities of what they could do.
We can't sit here and talk about BioShock today, because I was about to take up a whole episode just gushing over BioShock.
Yeah.
But I'm so happy you finally played it, because I love Infinite.
Infinite was great.
Just as much as the first one, if not maybe even a little more.
It was stylish. Like, I think that's what I like so much about it, is it's very stylish. And it's funny to see some of the links between the first game and Infinite, with the whole like crossing over and the tears or whatever, and how there's injectables, and they're like, we can't use the drinkable ones because it takes 10 times the atom and it's not cost effective. And I thought like the cups or like the glasses that you drank to get the powers were like super cool, designed very cool. That the weapons felt a lot better in the game, and the gunfights felt better.
Traversal was great. The sky hooks, like,
that was awesome.
God, I love BioShock. We can't do this.
The Songbird was cool, and how they linked them together with like the Big Daddies or whatnot. You could like end up basically commanding the Songbird to just like nuke airships was tight, and he'd come down and, you know, I don't know. That was I honestly thought, I was dreading the whole game. I'm like, I'm gonna have to fucking fight the Songbird. I was like, no, I don't want to fight him. He's gonna kick my ass. And then it happened, and she's like, well, you can command him. And I'm like, oh yes, awesome. BioShock Infinite was 7 hours. I don't know.
Oh, so good.
I did rush it. I will say I didn't do all this extra stuff. I'm not really in it for all the extra stuff, but it was quick. And then I'm currently playing Trails in the Sky, Legend of Heroes, which I've had the game for a while. I've never played it. It's a long one, so I've got the time to play it now. I'm 5 hours in, and I didn't realize I was 5 hours in already. I just started playing it, and I said, oh, 4 hours and 45 minutes. What? Oops. I thought I was playing it for like an hour.
That means it's a good game.
There's not even really anything happening in it yet, which is funny, but that's it.
Well, we'll just jump right into underrated/underappreciated games that are cheap. To kind of cover some bases here, guys, we understand that underrated, underappreciated is kind of to each their own opinions. So we're going to go ahead and discuss why we feel it is underrated or underappreciated. And cheap's a relative term, but I would say it's fair to say most of these games are $20 or under, and available on a variety of platforms. But Nate, if you want to start with the first one, what you got?
The first game I'm going to talk about is one that most people have probably brought up when it comes to this topic. I think most people have played this game feel the exact same way I do. That's Enslaved, Odyssey to the West. It's developed by Ninja Theory, which I think one of probably their biggest games, Hellblade. Namco Bandai published it. It has a lot of the same things that made Hellblade great, where it's very character driven, it has a ton of charm to it. It just didn't sell very well, unfortunately. I think the world was beautiful It was unique. I feel like PlayStation specifically has a great library of single-player action-adventure games. Something that can be kind of lacking on Xbox. I played this on 360 originally when it came out, and played with Bryan actually, and we were just instantly hooked in that game, and we had a blast going through it. We were kind of sad when it was over, actually. We ended up playing the DLC, which the poor DLC just kind of felt like it wasn't, and like DLC wasn't new, but it wasn't quite settled what they were doing. They're like, we have to add something, we have to charge you for it. And they played the least likable character and like a little story with him, and we were like, this needs to be over. But
on a side note, that was I don't remember his name, is a pig.
Pigsy.
Say Pigsy, yeah. Do you remember how that dude said ice cream? It was the most annoying thing on the planet.
You want to give us an imitation?
Ice cream? I shit you not. The whole game we would talk about ice cream, just like that.
Yeah, it's
something to get hung up on.
Fun fact. Other than that, love the game. Nothing but positive things to say about it. Go ahead, Nate.
No, it's just it's one of those games where it doesn't really reinvent the wheel, but it does everything so well. It makes, I don't know anyone who's played it and didn't care for it. Everyone who's actually sat down, put time into it, it's like, this game's great. It feels super fleshed out. Like I said, it's beautiful. I think it's kind of like the perfect way to make a third-person action-adventure game from that era specifically. It feels a lot to a degree like Uncharted, where it's bombastic but touching when it needs to be. Really extremely likable characters. You care about all of them. And then from a collector standpoint, this is a pretty cool game because there's so many different like versions. And so if you're into like cover variants and stuff like I am, I have one that's got a Marvel comic book inside it. It's like a mini one. So it's just, and there's like a Best Buy exclusive DLC skin. There's like a Walmart exclusive one. So it's kind of fun to collect also. It's about $10 to $15 on PS3, 360. It's $20 on Steam. So as far as bang for your buck, you really can't go wrong with this game. Bryan, I know you've played it. Do you have any thoughts on it?
Yeah, honestly, the story's great. I mean, it's Journey to the West, it's Dragon Ball, but it's told a different way with like dystopian robotic future. The main character is so likable. The companion sidekick's not annoying. Characters are lovable. I mean, I cannot say enough about the writing in this game. It's great. Cinematography, I mean, it is like Uncharted. It's the most thing I can relate to Uncharted, where it's like set pieces are shot like a movie instead of a video game. I've got nothing but good things to say about this game, honestly.
Classic Ninja Theory, where it's a quality game. Nothing really reinvents the wheel, but it makes you fall in love with it. Barry, being a fan of Horizon, I think it's a game you would absolutely love if you ever sat down to play it.
Yeah, I think I actually Gameflyed it back when we did that, and that was Gamefly, as I get mentioned. It's crazy. We're not sponsored, I promise, but if Gamefly, you want to sponsor us. No, it's one that I was just like, oh, we'll knock it out, do the achievements, whatever, and I really enjoyed it and like bought it, maybe 2 weeks after I Gameflyed it, because I'm like, this is great.
I have a couple copies of it, specifically the one with the comic book. I think it's really cool. But
yeah, I don't have that. I'd like to get my hands on that.
I don't remember who did the art, but it was a big time Marvel artist. It was pretty sick. But yeah, like I said, $20 on Steam, $10 to $15 on PS3, 360. Some video game stores have it for low as like $5 or $8. So don't feel like you have to buy the DLC. But can't say enough good things about this game. Barry, what's first on your list?
We're gonna go with something a little silly first. And granted, when I say underrated, I mean a game that I don't feel like I hear people talking about. Now, this isn't to say this game wasn't acclaimed when it came out, but as of now, when people go back and be like, really great games, I don't feel like these titles are really talked about, or they're a little under the radar. That's kind of what I go for. So we're going to talk about Sid Meier's Pirates, the newer one, not the 80s one. This one came out in 2004, and it's like 3D graphics or whatever. They really kind of pumped a bunch up for it. It is on Xbox, PSP, PS2, PC, iOS, and Wii, as well as digital for Steam, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X. So there is literally no way to not play this game. Developed by Firaxis, and then originally it was published by Atari, and then 2K took it over. So a lot of the earlier, I think 2K took it over for console releases. But it is $2.49 on Steam if you're feeling like checking it out after this. And then Xbox One and Series X has it for $10 digitally. All these other platforms, like I have a PSP copy, this boy is like $10, if that. So it's a very accessible game, especially if you have an old console or if you have a new console or you have a PC. A remake of the original Sid Meier's Pirates, but there's just so much you can do in this game. Like, you sail around in your boat, like you start the game. The story is not what this game is about. This is about being a pirate. That's what you do in this game. And the interesting thing about this one is, like, your family gets stolen, you have to go out there and try and find them, you become a pirate. That's the gist of the game. You get a pirate, you find the guy who stole your family, you go fight him. I never beat this game because I didn't care. All right, I wanted to go fight ships and dig up treasure and woo the governor's ladies with dancing. Like, that's what I did when I played this game. So you can sail around your little boat and you go fight ships, and you can take their ships and take all their loot and take all their treasure and then add the ship to your little fleet and then go sell the ship and then find treasure maps and raid towns and do all this crazy stuff. And it's just a fun game to, like, sit down and play and not have to worry about getting too invested. And the game is also time-based, so if you get too old, like, your dude's gonna leave. Or, like, if you're sailing for too long and you haven't paid your pirate crew, they'll get mad and start deserting you. So once you've accumulated enough wealth, you're gonna have to split it up and then start again, so you're not losing your crew. So it's just kind of like a rinse and repeat type game. You can go fight Blackbeard. It's basically just like you go out there and you do whatever you want as a pirate, and then you can restart the game and do something different. And there's the Spanish and the Dutch and the English and the French, and they're all trying to fight you depending on who you're affiliated with, or if you're flying a pirate flag and the pirate's trying to fight you. Or you can be knighted, and you can literally just do almost anything in this game. So it's a very fun game. If you haven't played it before, it's worth a $250 on PC.
Yeah, it's one that I haven't played. I've played a lot of Sid Meier's games, and every single one's just, like, charming to the brim. And I'm probably gonna pick this up after this episode because it's $2.50.
Oh, it's so good. And the thing is I play games for a story. This has no story.
It's like the perfect game from that era where it's deep enough to keep you invested, but simple and fun enough to kind of just check your brain out and play for a while. And it looks exactly what I need in my life right now.
It's fun. And I think, I mean, maybe Sea of Thieves is kind of similar in that aspect, where it's like there really isn't a story. Like, the whole point of what I want a pirate game to be is I get to go out there and I get to do whatever the hell I want.
Do some pirate shit.
So if I want to get on this boat and have my friend... I wish there was multiplayer in it, but it's a fun single-player game. I mean, this game got really good reviews when it came out. We're talking 80s, high 80s, low 80s. It was nominated for, like, PC Game of the Year, which I think World of Warcraft beat it.
That's stiff competition, though.
It's crazy how old World of Warcraft is.
Right, so it's like this game, when it came out, was a big deal, and everybody was like, this is a really good iteration, and it does get repetitive. Like, that's what the game is. It's somebody compared it to mini games mashed into one. Like, that's what this game is. And if you go into it expecting something deep and rich, like, you're going to be disappointed. You're going to go in it for mini games. I love mini games. They're fun. It's just something that I want to sit down and play an hour, a couple hours for, and then, oh, cool, I'm going to start a new journey. And it's like The Sims.
Oh, funny you say that.
It's a sim. That's what it is. So I check it out. It's cheap. It's accessible. It's a very fun game. Super worth $250. I mean, that's cheaper than a Starbucks coffee, so get it. What game do you have, Bryan?
Yeah, so kind of continuing with a different kind of strategy, but strategy game. This is a pretty unique game that originally launched for Xbox and then came out on PS2 a year later. But the Full Spectrum Warrior series. Full Spectrum Warrior was developed by Pandemic Studios and released in 2004 on the Xbox and PC and 2005 on the PS2. The best way I can describe this game, it's similar to XCOM, where you command squads, and you're using, like, strategies like flanking, and you're using like cover fire, and you basically control U.S. Army soldiers. And it's funny because this is basically based off of a simulator that the U.S. military used, and there's a cheat code in this game where you can unlock the simulator, and it's horrible. I mean, it's not made to be played like a video game. It was like, hey, this is basics for, like, flanking, maneuvering, providing cover fire, calling in, like, tanks and airstrikes and things like that. So when you play this military sim and then you play the game, you're like, oh, this plays much more like a video game. Like, this is more fun to play than the simulator, right? The idea of it was, yeah, it's a strategy game, but it's also a video game. I grew up loving strategy games. It's weird because I don't play a ton of them now. But for some reason, I think for this game, for me, it was the multiplayer, which is unfortunate it's not around anymore because it is backwards compatible on the Xbox. And I think it's $9.99 on the Xbox for digital, but you can pick up the disc for like $7. PS2 and Xbox, it's the price isn't that much different. But the multiplayer was so good in this game because when you're playing in single player, you've got 2 4-man squads. You basically have one, you select them to suppress or do whatever, throw a grenade. Then you've got to manually switch to the other team. And while you're manually switching, the first squad's going to waste all their ammo, throw grenades, do all these crazy things while you're just trying to maneuver the other squad. But if you're playing online, you can talk real time. It was like, I remember it was the first time, other than Rainbow Six 3, where it's like the Xbox headset was so essential on the original Xbox Live. Because it would throw you in this lobby with this other person. You're like, all right, this is what we're going to do. It was just all communication. It was all real time. It almost changed the game from the single player, honestly. So it's unfortunate that the online's not around anymore, but I still enjoy the single player. It's something different. It scratches that itch for like strategy. It's not super insane, but like it's unforgiving as all hell. Like you take 1 bullet, maybe 2, you're dead. Like you lose soldiers, they're permadeath. It's a great game. It's fun. It makes you think. It's like urban combat environment, so it's a little different than XCOM. You don't have to worry about aliens with the lasers. It's literally just like, insurgents, and they're behind a barricade. They don't have a lot of vehicles. They might have explosives, so there is a lot of strategy involved, but it's not like, you're sitting there thinking about 20 minutes what to do. You've got to make really quick reactions and decisions, and yeah, you can cost your squad permadeath, so it's fun. The sequel, Full Spectrum Warrior 10 Hammers, was released in 2006 on it was a PS2, Xbox, PC. It was a simultaneous release this time. But the thing that 2 did it differently than the first one was, again, the multiplayer was great. You could do the co-op still, which was cool. It cleaned up a lot of the gameplay, and it had more vehicles. Like I remember there was like a armored vehicle you could call on and like do suppressive fire with that. You can call on airstrikes in that one. So they added more depth to it, but also the coolest thing with this one was, again, the multiplayer. You could do like insurgents versus coalition, I guess is the proper way to word it. But yeah, it was a blast to actually have. You'd have 2 squads of 4 total people, and you couldn't hear the other team, so it was all real time. But also, you don't get to aim any of the shooting in this game. Like, you can aim their general direction, like, hey, I want you guys to shoot this way, but you don't go ADS. You don't get to pull the trigger yourself. So you could throw smoke grenades, and it's basically whoever made the most decisions the fastest. Outmaneuver your opponent, trick them, flank them. It was just a blast, man. There's truly nothing like it, and
well, that was what was interesting about this game, is it was actually like an experiment by the military to be like, we need to find a way to train our soldiers. They like playing video games. So they basically put out a contract to make a training sim in a video game format that would respond to them. So the entire game is it's interesting because it's not really that accurate, in my opinion.
You got some experience. Maybe you can let us.
It's basically a training sim for almost like squad command. So if you are in charge of a squad of 4, you're the one who's making the decisions to play this person here. And all right, you go cover over there, and I'll cover fire, suppress fire, while this person moves out of cover so they don't get shot on the way over or whatnot. So you're not actually shooting anybody. You're not doing anything. You're just kind of seeing. It is a tactical. It is an RTS is really what it is. There's no pause, so you have to make those decisions as your little, squad commander to be like, hey, here, you go. Oh, we just lost a dude because of my poor decision.
Right. It's interesting because it's not turn-based like XCOM. It's real time.
So it's an interesting concept, but it definitely didn't pan out for the long haul.
Right.
So
it is funny because there is differences. Like when you insert the code and play the simulator, it's a 12-man squad. Like it's a lot different. It's more like indoor environments instead of outdoors, which I thought was interesting.
I mean, I think this game would be a lot more interesting if it was like a randomly generated game, which is a little ahead of its time for when it came out. But the problem was you got used to the level.
Right.
And then you could be like, okay, I know this dude's going to pop out here. I know this dude's going to pop out here. It's how I beat this level.
Right.
Where it'd be a lot more interesting if every single, like the AIs were smarter, where it's like every single time it's going to be different. You're never going to have a repeat match.
Right. I mean, honestly, I remember playing single player. It was like, hey, you suppress them, you flank them, you smoke them. And if you start running out of ammo, you get the saw and just decimate everything. I mean, the one guy at the saw can literally provide all the cover fire you need to move everybody else around and just smoke everybody.
That's all that gun is good for.
Yeah.
I remember
Didn't actually hit nothing.
playing this game, and different age for getting information. So hey, new military game. I remember being pissed. I'm like, what the fuck is this game? Like, I'm not. And then once I figured out what it actually was, I was like, okay, this game is pretty rad. But I remember being really disappointed when I first played it because I was like, I can't even aim. Like, what the hell is this?
I mean, people were. If it wasn't Medal of Honor or Call of Duty, people were like, I don't want this.
But once I figured out what I was actually playing, I was like, I'm gonna give it a chance for what it actually is, not what I want it to be. And I really ended up enjoying it. I remember we put a lot of hours into it as kids. Well,
that's the thing. I played a ton of strategy games. And I mean, at the time, it was like Command and Conquer, RTS, that type of thing. So this was and I never really played the original XCOM back then. So this was a nice breath of fresh. This was a nice breath of fresh air, and just something different that they don't really make anything. Now, I guess XCOM is the closest thing I could relate it to. Full Spectrum Warrior 10 Hammers is roughly around $7 to $10 physically. It's not available digitally, except for on its Steam, it is $9.99. Or you can get both Full Spectrum Warrior games for $15 on Steam. What a deal. So, Nate, what's your second game?
Second game is an interesting one. The official title is Peter Jackson's King Kong, the official game of the movie, which is the greatest title in video game history. It's made by Ubisoft. I'm going to butcher this pronunciation. Montpellier? Is that how you say it? I should ask.
Montpellier.
Sure, we'll go with that.
Came out right on the, in quotations, next gen era of 360. So it came out on PS2, Xbox, GameCube. I think there's a Game Boy Advance version, a PSP version, and a 360 version. All these games are very cheap except for the 360 version. For some reason, it's astronomically expensive. I think it's a little print. But I'm mainly specifically talking about PS2, Xbox, GameCube because this game pushes the limits of all those systems. It is insanely impressive. It's first person, which at papers doesn't sound like anything new, but the presentation, it's melee based and there's not really a HUD. It is super immersive and it kind of feels like the movie where it's super big budget and it's kind of breathtaking at some points. Doesn't do anything to completely revolutionize video game history, but I never have seen an officially licensed movie game where people actually cared about what they were making. There's few and far between. There's a couple, but this one, you see Ubisoft, you see King Kong, you're like, oh, this game's probably going to be very cut and paper. No, it's extremely immersive. The sound is incredible. The gameplay is fast, and you're not King Kong, which is the first surprising thing to me. I was like, oh, I want to be King Kong and wreck some stuff, but you're humans, and you kind of see Kong in the background, and it made me want to. I really remember playing this game. I can't wait to finish it because it's I'm actually excited. I'm a big King Kong fan, full disclosure, but that movie has its issues, but it's not as bad as everyone says it is. And neither is this game. This game is actually insanely impressive for it being a movie tie-in, and then kind of the last bar on those consoles. And you can get it for around $8 to $10. Even on GameCube, it's extremely cheap, which everything GameCube's kind of crazy right now. But it's quick, but it's super unique experience. If you like dinosaurs, there's dinosaurs in it. I mean,
he fights a T-Rex.
Yeah, I mean, there's a common theme on this podcast. We all like dinosaurs, full disclosure. But
if you've watched Peter Jackson's King Kong, it's exactly what it is.
It literally follows the movie.
Spoilers. So
I remember playing this game and being blown away by the AI. You're in first person most of the game, and there's guns, but a lot of times you have spears and you have flaming spears. And when you throw a spear at a dinosaur and it gets pissed, it reacts. I was like, oh god, this is terrifying.
Yeah, it's super immersive. And I remember even the humans that follow you around, a lot of times AI is you're gonna run into a wall, you're gonna annoy me, but it's all very fluid and graphically impressive, presentation's impressive, the sound's impressive, the programming's impressive. Honestly, this game to this day blows me away still when I go back and play it.
I will say I've never played this game, and when I went and watched video, it looks extremely dated.
It's probably a product of its time.
Yeah, which I can see what you're going for in terms of pushing the limits of the system. But I will say, if you were interested in going into this game, especially on PS2, it does graphically it's a little dated.
Probably because they went for anytime you're 3D, you don't go for stylized. You go back to it and you go, oh man. But as far as trying to look realistic, it looks pretty good, I think, especially with like no HUD or any like video game cliche stuff. It went for basically like a first person on film look.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting too. There's games out there now where it's like you can turn the setting off to be no display, and I can't think of anything in that era that was trying to do that in the same way, especially first person.
Especially a movie tie-in game.
Yeah.
Like they actually you can tell they actually like gave a crap about making this game, and it shows through to me.
I think the animations look really well in the first person scenes, like the dinosaurs and the monsters. The Kong stuff, not so much. Like when you play as Kong and you just, square, 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 XXX, they don't look great, but like, yeah, the first person stuff, you can tell it's where most of the budget went.
It's shocking when like you buy a game like fully expecting to be King Kong and kick some ass, you're more excited to play the human parts, which opposite of any giant monster movie, obviously.
Right. I also think it's interesting how like the focus on the melee combat, there wasn't a lot of games like that now or then. I mean, I remember people were blown away with Far Cry Primal. They're like, oh, this is so different and unique. And I'm thinking King Kong did it before.
And another game we're going to talk about in here in a little bit.
Yep.
But we'll save that game for a moment. But for now, Barry, what's the next game you'd like to talk about?
This is a little game on the PS2 that I have never heard of anybody else that I know have played this game, but it is called Kaya Dark Lineage, and it is a 2003 platformer when platformers were the rage and everybody wanted to get into the platformer market. And we all know the ones on the PS2 that came out of that, like Ratchet and Clank. It's a big one, but I mean that's the era of like Sly Cooper and Jak and Daxter. So in that era, in that stylized platform arts when this game came out. So it is a PS2 exclusive, 2003, developed by Eden Games, which is now defunct because Atari, who published it, went bankrupt and shuttered the developer studio. So Eden Games is no longer a thing. It's about $10 to $20. I'm supposing, depending on how complete or clean it is. I'll say like $20. High, about $20. There is no digital. So the only way to play this is on the PS2. Kaya Dark Lineage is a third-person platformer where you play as this girl named Kaya, and your dad is basically a deadbeat. He's been out of the picture. It seems like he abandoned your family. There's a photo of him with his face scratched out, and you and your brother are like messing around with his inventions that got left over, and you get sucked into a portal into another world where there's basically like these little furry dudes. And you and your brother get separated, and your whole shtick is you're trying to find him, but the furry guys are like, hey, there's an evil guy here that's turning our entire community into these wolf people called Wolvens, and that bad guy is actually your dad. So Kaya's dad is the one who's basically wrecking this universe. He's turning all these little dudes into wolves so he can have an army to take it over and then take over the human world. So he's actually holding your brother hostage, and he's going to try and turn the human into a wolf. And so his own son is the test subject. So you have to go and try and rescue your brother. But it's a single jump. All you really have is a boomerang. So you're solving puzzles with your little boomerang, like you can kick bombs or kick little other things. But as far as items or mechanically, there's not really much, and so it kind of forces it to get very creative with level design. But I mean, all in all, it's a very interesting platformer that does have a lot of weak points, but it is very fun for what it is. I think they put a lot of work into designing things, and some of it falls flat and some of it doesn't, but it's just a very fun game to play, and it was kind of lost in the sea of games that came out in that era, and it's not something that I would say is bad. It's not like a 10 out of 10, don't get me wrong, but I had a lot of fun playing it.
Yeah, I was looking into it because I hadn't actually played it before we recorded this, and it's something I kind of want to pick up now. And there's a lot of cool ways to traverse the environments, and I think when you do platformers, because like you said, this is an era where we had a bunch to select from, like level designs, how you make a good platformer when you have so much to go against. There's like snowboarding stuff in this game. There's like wind traversal. There's some cool ways to like move around to kind of change up the gameplay, even though you keep platforming gameplay to a degree. You keep it the same throughout. But I thought the art direction was really cool in this game. It's dark, but not like brooding. super unique. Usually you think platformers, you think how can we make a mascot to like attach to a console to get somebody to pick up and sell for their system. This one kind of feels like it's very much trying to be independent and tell a story with a little bit of substance to it. Your dad went out to get smokes and milk and he ended up taking over universe while he was gone. So it's like, I don't know, I think that's really unique. The boomerang mechanic's cool. I think it's a fun weapon. It's, there's nothing in the game where it's kind of practical, kind of fantasy too, where it kind of meets the art direction perfectly, where it's believable, a little dark, but not overly brooding. And I love platformers. I don't really get to play enough of them or own enough of them. This is one I'm definitely looking at where I definitely intend to pick it up if I see it. So I'm pretty excited, and thanks for the recommendation. Because
it's definitely not one of those games that kind of takes itself too seriously. Like, it's little wolf guys are hard. It's hand-to-hand combat, and even then it's like dodging and trying to flip around them and hit them and knock them out, because you have to turn these wolves back into their, innocent little forms. Like, you ain't how you're killing them. So there's a lot of different interesting things that they tried to do. It doesn't feel too repetitive. Sometimes it does feel a little repetitive, but because you have to backtrack quite a bit.
Yeah.
So you have to backtrack through your level, get a new item, unlock a new spot. But as far as like the puzzles, I feel like the puzzles are always different. And I remember when I played it, there were some that I was just like, I can't figure this out. And this is before we could, dial up. So I got to wait like 10 minutes just to get online to even maybe find anything. So you'd have to try and figure it out. I don't know if I want to mention the ending because it's so whack.
Yeah.
It's not like we're ever going to get a sequel. Go ahead.
If you're interested in playing it and you don't really want to know about the ending, I'm about to spoil it. But at the ending, like, you kill your dad with no remorse. Like, you kick him off of a cliff almost into lava, and then you like look at him over the edge as he's falling, and then like chuck his hat in there and just walk away. And the funny thing is like you get back to the village with your brother, and the chief is like, "Hey, I forgot to tell you this, but the portals, nobody knows how to run them. Your dad was the only one who knew how to use it, so we don't know how to get you back to your world." And I'm like, you didn't want to mention this to the get-go, where it's like, hey, if you want to go back to your world, you better get your dad to spill his secrets first before you kill him. And so he's gone. So the only guy who has any knowledge about these portal traversals is your dead dad. So they were just like, nah, jumped in the portal and just tried it. And in the end of the game, you land on a beach. It sounds like a beach, but it looks like a desert, because I don't remember seeing water.
No, I think it's just pure sand.
I think it's just sand. And they wake up, they get up, and they're like, and then something just crazy attacks them. And it says, "The end?" ?
Bro, they Evil Dead to that shit
And
where you
that's
just go
it.
through the portal and you're in the desert.
And I'm like, don't put in an ending to a game where you're not sure if you're even going to get a sequel. Like, it was bad. I just thought it was hilarious that the chief is like, by the way, I forgot to tell you.
Oh, hey, man.
I'm like, damn.
Speaking of your dad, great job, but yeah.
Like,
No, the game looks really interesting. I've never played it, but I watched a couple of videos and I was surprised by the variety of not only the traversal, but like you said, the puzzles. It looks like it could stick out of the bunch a little bit. For there's so many, especially on the PS2 platformers. I can think of 100 off my head right now. It's definitely something I'm interested in looking and checking out.
And for the price, like, I'd pick it up. $20, you can't go wrong, especially with PlayStation exclusive titles that had very low print. Like, this game did not sell well.
Feels like a good...
Like, it is, there is not a lot of copies out there. It's not really regarded as, like, a classic PS2 platformer. It got lost in the sauce. So, if you can find it for cheap, like, pick it up.
Well, I don't see often out and about.
I've seen maybe 3.
Yeah, so...
I've never honestly heard of it until we talked about this. So.
I picked this game up. I don't remember how old I was, but this was a Game Crazy.
Nice.
Like, y'all remember Game Crazy?
Oh yeah.
So I remember getting it with that the green and orange sticker on it. Like, that's where I got it. So
that existed. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah. Bryan, what do you have for your second game?
Yeah. So my second game, not to steal any thunder from Nate, Mr. Sega, but I picked I'm cheating again. I'm picking 2. It's but same series. It's Condemned Criminal Origins and Condemned 2 Bloodshot. The first game, Condemned Criminal Origins, was developed by Monolith, which blew me away. I didn't remember that was like one of their games. And again, published by Sega. super unique game. I remember it was a launch game for the Xbox 360, and it was available on PC also. But I remember, going in with not a lot of expectations. There wasn't a lot to play on the 360 when it launched. I was like, okay, it's different. I'll pick it up. Looks cool. But the best way I can describe this game, it's a first-person melee combat, but you're also doing detective work, and it's horror. I mean, it's straight-up horror, but it's not like traditional monsters or demons. It's atmospheric, and there is some supernatural stuff. Man, I can't honestly tell you 100% what the story is about. It gets kind of wild and weird. It starts out like you're an FBI agent, and you're out looking for this murderer. No, so these birds, you basically find the supernatural stuff with this. You find these birds with tuning forks in them, and they're setting off a signal and driving these people crazy. The game's story is not why you're playing this game. If you're in the horror, it's very atmospheric. I remember like the detective stuff's not throughout the whole game, but when you do it, it's pretty interesting. There's a lot of like, use gadgets and things like that. I won't even say that's the primary focus of it. It's the combat's the highlight of the show. It's so unique. Pretty much everything in the environment that you can like pick up and hit somebody with in real life, you can in this game. There is guns, but again, it's not the focus. Like you get as many bullets that are in the gun as what you get to use. If you have a shotgun with 4 bullets in it, yeah, you're not going to go around and find more ammo. You're getting 4 shots with that shotgun. Like if you see a pipe on a wall, you can literally pull the pipe off the wall and start beating people with it. There's like rebar with cement on the end of it, and all the melee weapons have different stats for like speed and damage.
Flaming 2x4s, awesome.
Oh yeah,
I will say there's a lot of variety.
Yeah.
When I was watching that video,
there's good weapons, and all the enemies react differently to like what you have. So you can block. Parrying is a huge part of the combat in this game. Every enemy you encounter, they've either got a gun or they've got a melee weapon also. But I remember the variety of like how the enemies react to what you have. Like they'll go out and find another weapon if you've got like a fire axe, which was like the most OP melee weapon.
Sledgehammer wants to have a word with that.
Right, yeah. There's some good ones, but like let's say you had a higher tier weapon than them, and they had like a lead pipe, which is your pretty basic weapon. They would look at you and be like, "Oh shit," and go run and find something, pull it off the wall, and come back. It was cool how like the AI reacted to you and your ability to like kick their ass, and it is so atmospheric and like brutal and depressing and
super visceral, man. Like it's gritty.
There's nothing really like it. It's a truly unique game, and that's kind of like my approach with these underappreciated quote games. Just something different, something unique. You're not going to play every day. 2, not my favorite. I think the first one's a better game, but 2 is more modernized, if that makes sense. See, the first one you can get for around $14.95 on Steam. 2's not available on Steam. Physically for the first game and the second game, it's about $13. So under $20, something different, something unique. Again, Monolith. I mean, they make bangers, and I'm not going to sit here and say this game's like a 10 out of 10 or anything, but like experiment, something different.
I love this game. Obviously, partially biased with Sega publishing it, but I remember just being blown away by something that felt so like gritty, not on PC, because a lot of times it's like that would only kind of be like the PC audience. But I remember playing on 360 and being like, this game slaps, and it is super aggressive. It's not going to jump scare you too much. They pick and choose the jump scares. They're very minimal. The scary things, walking through an abandoned building, pulling a pipe off the wall and just hearing, and you're like, where is this guy coming from? And then to see this hulking dude barge out through a wall with a pipe in his hand, screaming and yelling at you, and you have to like hulk yourself up to fight him. And like the combat's simple, but it's varying enough. You're reacting to them and they're reacting to you. So it kind of works with every situation where it keeps you engaged. It doesn't feel repetitive. And then the finishing moves are like super brutal. And it's like, it's a game that looks gritty, it feels gritty, and you feel like you need to take a shower afterward. And I think it's what they were going for completely, and it's perfect in that regard.
Bro, I want to know how the hobos and the scavengers are so yoked.
Tuning forks.
Like
birds with tuning forks stuck in them.
That dude looked like he was like what did he cut your drugs with? Like roids? Like
protein.
Hardcore? I'm
Drywall.
like, this guy is huge.
It's weight gainer gold. It's not
What is
Coke.
he? He's just like full protein out of drywall.
Yep.
But yeah, it's like it's a beefy game, man. These are beefcakes that fight you, and
So weird.
it's an inside joke if you played the game. It's because your bone density, But But no, it's a game that it's weirdly doesn't take itself too serious, but it does kind of at the same time. But you're supposed to just accept a lot of crazy shit.
I think the tone's the most jarring thing about the game, because like, yeah, it's psychological horror, but it's not a traditional like horror game. But yeah, you get the weird supernatural stuff, and then it's like you're just a cop investigating murders is how it starts. And then eventually you're like, wait, what the hell is going on?
Do you want to give a special mention to the taser? Because
the taser was rad.
As far as like weapons that don't kill you in a game, it's probably one of the best ones ever. It kind of makes me think of Siphon Filter's taser.
I was getting ready to say, yeah.
You can just wreck some shit with it, and there's nothing more rewarding than a huge hulking hobo bleeding from his face already, charging with a flaming 2x4, zapping with a taser, watching him go like, and it's just bashing his brains in with a brick. Like if that sentence doesn't get you excited, like don't play this game. But if you're like, that sounds cool, play this game.
I remember like the animations are super unique too. Like I'll touch a little bit when you were talking about the combat. Like you swing, they're gonna either dodge, but it's not just like,
they can fake you out.
Right. It's not Oblivion where they're just like,
it's the same physics engine as Fear. So the animation looks a little wonky, but the physics are incredible. Same lighting and stuff too. So like it's weirdly graphically impressive and graphically ugly at the same time, which is how I felt about Fear as well.
I also remember cranking the brightness up on this because, like, a lot of the game you're literally looking through a flashlight a la Doom 3. And, man, sometimes it works better than others. When the bums would, like, pull the power off the wall and, like, the building would go dark, it'd be like, damn it, A, because they have electricity, but B, you can't see anything. But it adds to the atmosphere. I mean, every horror game feels like it has to just go pitch black to scare you or whatever, but it's a different kind of horror. It's pretty fun, pretty unique. Can't recommend it enough, especially for the price. You can get both, I think, on eBay for Xbox 360 for $24 shipped. Like, jump on that. Nate, what's your third game?
The last game I want to talk about is Sega Bass Fishing, the greatest fishing game ever made. Anything on Dreamcast for $10, it's probably worth picking up. An all-time classic, genuine goat of video game history for $10. Can't speak enough about it. It's $8 on Steam if you don't have a Dreamcast. I have fond memories of the arcade of playing this game. I have fond memories of playing this game through them. I go back to this game frequently. It is not fishing simulator. It is not realistic. It is not something that you're going to go out and start providing for your family fishing by using the tricks and tips you learn in this game. But is it fun? Absolutely.
Yeah, it's not like Bassmaster Pro.
Hell no.
No, this is like, I know it says Sega, but I was like, did Capcom make this? Like, it's
got that classic Sega arcade.
It's so arcadey.
Corny charm. Obviously Sega made and developed this game, but for the console version of Dreamcast, Sims developed it. They also did House of the Dead 2. It's an internal studio with Sega, but one of the better ones. This game holds up because the simplicity of it kind of makes it easier to go back and play now. It's simple, but there's enough layer to it where you want to beat your high score. It's the perfect arcade game. It's easy to play, hard to master, and it always kind of, it's short enough you can sit there like, I'm going to beat this score today. F this. I'm not going to lose. I'm going to go beat my score. And when you don't, you want to keep trying. There's so many classic sound bites for this game. Like, that's worth the price of admission alone. When you catch that big, beefy bass, this one's huge. Like, come on. Like, I know, Bryan, I know you love this game too.
I cannot, as the fisherman in this group, I cannot say enough about this game. Yeah, tons of childhood memories playing at, was it Planet Hollywood? What was the name of that arcade? Block Party.
I will say, when I was looking this game up, it has a special controller.
Yeah.
I don't think came out in the US. I think you had to get
the Japanese version have a actual fishing lure. Packaged with it.
It's like a reel.
So
it's like a reel with a tiny itty bitty rod on the end of it.
Dreamcast. I'm not 100% sure if it's compatible.
Sold separately, it is compatible.
Yeah.
But as far as I saw, like, these guys were like, "Yo, this is the way to play this game." The controller's not cheap though.
No,
but
I'll say
it like added kind of the feel,
right,
where it kind of just brought it to the next level, back to kind of the arcade. Because did the arcade have the reel?
Oh yeah,
the arcade was lit. The
cabinet's amazing. Sega was like, they were king of the arcades when this game came out, and it's one of those cabinets that stands out. Like, you put it today, people would come over and play it because it looks awesome. It's big, it's gaudy,
it's corny.
Do you remember the marquee?
Corny.
Yeah.
Do you remember the marquee on the cabinet? It's literally like a mounted fish on the wall, but it's 3D and it's huge. And
so
it
it's
hangs
Big Bass, Billy Bass.
Yeah. It's that classic Sega cheese / charm.
I think the metal outside, it's all lit up. Like, it's a beautiful
It's gaudy
cabinet.
and it's gorgeous, and definitely, like, if you bought one for your arcade, people are going to walk over and like, what the hell is it? And screaming, and playing the music.
I'll say this too about the game. I was going to touch on the controller a little bit, Barry, but if you're playing it with the Dreamcast controller, it doesn't feel like it's impossible to control. I know there's a lot of arcade games that don't translate well to a pad. I feel like this one does. It's also available on Xbox 360, and that port is great. It plays just as well as the Dreamcast version, if not better. I would say it's as close to arcade perfect as you're going to get on a pad. Pricing for that, I think, is a little more expensive as far as the physical disc, but you can download it. I think it's
digital for $5 on 360.
Yeah, I don't know if it's backwards compatible or not, but like great, $5 snag all day. I love this game. I still play it all the time. I dust it off. I've got 2 or 3 copies of it, different cover variations and whatnot. For me, it is like I fish in real life. Full disclosure, this is nothing like that. But sometimes you just want to fish some big boys out of the water and just have fun. Sitting there and playing with somebody too, it is a game you can just easily pass the controller back and forth.
It is backwards compatible. It's $5.
Is it single player?
Yeah.
No co-op? Okay.
This game would scream like a anniversary edition with a co-op.
Well, I was going to touch on that. There is a version that came out on Wii. It's a little different. It's still Sega Bass Fishing, but it's a little different. It's only $5. So, I mean, even if you want like the fancier, different versions, this game's extremely accessible. It's extremely cheap, and it's an all-time classic.
It's weird because 2 is pretty expensive, I think.
Yeah, it's actually like a franchise. A lot of people don't know that, but 2's not horribly expensive.
It's not $5. I'm assuming it's like 30
I think it's
to 40.
expensive for a fishing game.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
One's a better game, though, to be blunt.
As a fishing game collector, yeah, 2's one I spent a lot of money on. But yeah, this game, it's so easy. I see it everywhere. You can find it at like pawn shops. You can find it anywhere. And it's always $5 or under.
Yeah, 2's like $55, $60.
Yeah.
But one's a better game, in my opinion. One feels more like that. One feels like more like an arcade game. Pick it up and play it for 5 minutes. If you want to play it for 30, you can. 2 feels more like a console game.
Like you were saying earlier, it's got that addictive feel, like a Crazy Taxi or something at the time.
Yeah, when they were like killing it, man. Yeah. And it's unfortunate the Dreamcast didn't take off and fly here because there's a lot of great games people didn't get to play. That's why I'm thankful this is on a couple other platforms, Steam, 360. You can experience this game. And I know fishing game, I don't think you have to love fishing to play this game. It plays like a corny arcade game, and it's simple and fun. Even if you don't like the game, like the audio will crack you up. The commentator's amazing. I can't say enough kind things about him.
Yeah, I can't praise this game enough, honestly. I was going to say, yeah, you kind of touched on it. If you don't enjoy fishing or fishing games, this isn't your typical sim. This is pure arcade fun zaniness. Give it a shot. Cannot say enough good things about it.
I'm going to cast it off to you, Barry. What's your next game?
Cast it off. Ooh, Zinger.
Ooh. All right, well, before I introduce this game, y'all going to be like, what are you talking about? This is not an underrated game. It's not, but it is. Now, and I'll explain why. So, my last game is Overcooked. And a lot of people are like, that game is amazing. It got very well rated, very, very highly regarded game now. It came out in 2016, 2017, somewhere around there. A lot of people are like, what are you talking about? That's not an underrated game. It is underrated if you've never played it. And the thing about this game is if you know it, you know it. And if you know of it, you don't know it. Because play this game, like to really understand why this game is so charming and so fun, you have to play it with other people. You can't just watch a video of it and be like, like this whole thing is about experience. And in the day and age of so many people who want a couch co-op game, I feel like this kind of flew under the radar unless 100%. You had somebody introduce it to you. Like, I didn't know about this game at all until my friend came over and she was like, yo, you gotta play Overcooked with me. And I think Nate was over at the time too. And I'm like, all right, this is, it's on the Switch. Like, okay. So Overcooked is on Windows, PS4 and 5, Xbox One and Series X, Switch, which is what I originally played it on. That's what I have it on. To me, that's the easiest one to really kind of like have a group together and play because like a single Joy-Con is all you need. You don't need a full Pro controller or a full Xbox controller. It is up, down, left, right, and then you have one button to do your action and then a little dash. That's it. That's all you need. She was like, hey, you need to play this game. It's very fun. And I'm looking at it. I'm looking at the box and I'm like, this looks cute, whatever. And I don't remember what your first impressions of this game were. We'll get into that.
Same as yours. I mean, we're all sitting here smiling, talking about it right now. Like,
And I was like, oh, okay. And so it was all three of us. And I just remember like the first match, you kind of have your friend kind of ease you into it, where it's like, here's kind of what this game is about. Here's the goal. It's a cooking game where you're on a time limit and you have to make a certain dish that pops up and you have a certain amount of time to do it. So, for instance, it says, hey, you make onion soup. You got to go pick up an onion. You got to chop the onion. You got to go put the onion in the pot and make sure the pot is on the burner and then wait for it to cook. And then when it's done cooking, you have to take it off and put it onto a plate before it burns. And then you have to put the plate onto the little thing to deliver it. And be like, ching, congratulations, like you got it. The thing is about this game is the stages change. Like there's one where it's a boat and the entire boat will slide the entire stage over and just totally screw up everything. Or there's one stage where there's only one direction you can go. You have enough space for one character to move and you have to maneuver around that. So
it progresses and it gets zany. It starts off simple.
There's like an ice level where you're on like a little iceberg and you'll slide off with your plate too. Like there's a lot of things that can go wrong in this very
There's one where
fast.
rats steal your food.
There's one where the rats will come out and steal your food. And like you can sit there and watch somebody play this, but until you've experienced this game, you do not understand how fun it is.
It's so...
And that's what I mean about underrated.
It's
like,
simple and beautiful, and it's like you kind of touched on it. I haven't had a great couch co-op experience like this in so long, and it was so nice to play this game. Like we actually brought it over to another friend's group house, and they went out and instantly bought it when we left. Like,
because Bryan, you were there when I was like, look, Nate was on board with me. I'm like, you have to play this game. We have to go over and play this. And you're like, all right, whatever. What was explain your experience with this when you first saw it versus how you played it?
I remember the first time Nate was telling me he played, he's like, oh, you gotta check this game out. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, I'm not huge on like the party game type of deal, but it's not fair to call this a party game. It's got, for how simplistic the game is, it's got surprisingly amount of depth, where if you don't delegate these tasks to your friends, I don't want to brag, but I was the cutter. I mean, there's
I cut good.
That's the thing. There's so many callbacks we can joke with ourselves from like that one night we played it together, where it's like, you know, our friend was complaining about the rats, just screaming about these rats, and I'm sitting there talking about cutting. Like, memorable is the best word I can use. And it's funny because it's like a simplistic kitchen game. It's not a sim, so don't get that confused with what I'm saying. You literally have to, like, one person's got to deliver the food, one person's got to clean the plates, one person's got to cut. Cutting's important.
Like, if you don't do these, if you don't have everybody doing what they're supposed to be doing, like you're gonna have all of your pots full of onion soup and no clean dishes, and so you have to take these off of the burner and set it on the counter to wait for some person who is supposed to be washing the dishes to go find out and finally get it.
This game totally tests your friendship, frustration.
Effect.
And then you've got people screaming at each other like, I need a dish, and it's like they're all dirty, like just screaming, I need an onion, or what are we going to do about these rats?
What a fun game. Like, literally, like I said, we can go back and just talk about these memories of the first time we played it all together. Like, what a treat. So fun.
Just the experience of this game, like, you cannot understand it until you've really played it with your friends.
Best of Monopoly.
And that's the underrated part of this, where it's like, this isn't something that you can read a review and be like, oh, sure, you know, that sounds fun.
And I'll say this, like, if you played it by yourself, you're not going to get that same effect.
First off, you're not going to get very far.
Right.
Like, there is a point in the game where so it's a 4-player game, and us 3, we could not progress anymore. It was like, we need another person.
We did really well, though. Like,
we got pretty far.
A team.
Yeah, we did get pretty far.
We ended up having our own little kitchen nightmare that night, too, but...
Oh, when my house almost got set on fire? Yeah.
Overcooked in real life.
Yep, that's... Don't make paninis. Was it a panini? No. Don't make calzones and drink at the same time.
But yeah, it's funny. Like, we actually, it's funny. It's different groups you play with, and it's like we all, you know, get really. It starts you off slow, and you're like, hey, we're doing great. And by the end of it, you're all yelling and screaming at each other and trying to figure out whose fault it was. And the second group we played with, we had 4 people. So me and Barry already played. We're going to get farther. No, we didn't, man.
No, I mean, we had 5. We had one other person in the background.
Right,
like,
everybody's wife.
She was delegating. Yeah. Like, she was like, okay, you're doing this, and you're doing this, and you're doing this. And we're like, all right.
And you got that one stubborn person that just wants to cut instead of do anything else.
and the thing of this game is you have to collect stars in order to, like, progress through to the next world. And in order to do that, you have to play the levels, and it's a 1, 2, or 3, depending on your score, how many orders you can get in and the time limit. So we would be, like, 4 stars away from getting 3, or 4 points away from getting 3 stars, and we would play the whole thing. Like, we were not leaving that match until we got 3 stars. So we would have to sit there or restart the level and then pause and sit there and be like, all right, Nate, you're covering the chopping. Bryan, you're covering the cleaning the dishes and delivering the orders. And I'm going to get the ingredients out and set them up for you. Like, it was so, boom, you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this. So we're all just planning each other. And
then it's a map where the map rotates and all your plans go to shit and you have to adapt quickly. That's what I love about the game. It keeps you, it doesn't get too challenging. It keeps you just in that sweet spot where it's like, I know what I have to do, but God, this is hard and no one else is cooperating. And it's so charming too. Like, even the characters you can pick from, it's like cute little animals, and I don't know. It's a lovely game. I guess let's like, with this game specifically, we've all played it and we're all sitting here smiling, talking about it. I think that speaks volumes of what kind of game this is. I think Bryan kind of hit on the head. It's got it's one of those games you have memories of playing the actual game, not just of the game, but who you're with, and you're going to have your own little inside jokes about it. There's not a lot of games like that anymore, especially since couch co-op's practically dead. Like, what a beautiful resurrection for couch co-op. I own these games on Windows now because I was like, I have to own these games. Like, I had a great time. I immediately bought them right after we played it the first time.
Yeah, actually, I bought them for my girlfriend. I bought the Xbox 1 and 2 together combo pack for Series X. So
yeah, and there's a second one. So Overcooked and Overcooked 2, there's a couple where I think if you buy Overcooked 2, it comes with the first one in some versions. But I mean, if you're interested in this game, like I said, it's underrated if you've never played it. But if you've played it, you're like, this is one of the greats. A lot of people have many good things to say about that, especially after you experience it. But it is anywhere from $15 to $40, depending on the platform. I think the most expensive version is the Overcooked and Overcooked 2 combo pack for Switch for some reason. I mean, and it's an easy digital game which you can get on sale all the time. If you're a physical collector, I think the hardest one is to get the combo for Switch, but it is on basically every current platform that is out right now. So I highly recommend that one if you've got a couple bucks to spend and some friends to drink with. So, Bryan, what is your final game?
Yeah, so for my final game, it's one that they actually remastered. So I think it's kind of got a cult following, but the game is 13. That is XIII for Roman numerals. But developed by South End Interactive and Ubisoft Paris. It was released in 2013 for PC, GameCube, Xbox, and PS2. It's currently $6 on Steam. Like, it's probably the platform to play it on. GameCube version goes around $20. PS2 and Xbox, 10 to 12, that range. I grew up playing it on the Xbox, surprise. But the presentation for this game, man, I can't say enough about it. It's a first-person shooter. It's very story-driven, but the presentation's a comic book come to life's the best way I heard someone put it. It's so cool. Like, you'll line up a headshot, and it'll literally break down in the panels of, like, pop, 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 the bullet going through the dude's head. It's all cel-shaded, and even, like, when people are walking around, there'll be, like, a word bubble that'll pop up, tap, tap, tap when they're walking. I can't tell you enough how cool it looks. And, like, the remake totally destroyed that. They tried to go for, like, a realistic...
We're not going to talk about the remake.
Well, I think it's important, too, because it takes the charm and what makes this game unique out of... Absolutely. It takes the soul out of the game.
Soulless.
Yeah, like I was pretty hyped when I heard about it, and then I saw it, and I was like, oh my god, I'm so glad I didn't pick this up upon release, which, I mean, I'm very fond of this game. I got it for Christmas, I think, as a kid, and I still dust it off from time to time. It's there's so much variety in the missions. There are some, tropes of older games where the stealth missions aren't great, but, I mean, there's stealth missions, there's plenty of shooting, there's escort missions that don't suck, surprisingly. The story of the game is basically you're this man that washes up on a beach and people start trying to kill you and you have amnesia and you don't remember why. You slowly remember that, like, hey, you're a secret agent and... Well,
you get framed for killing the president, right?
Right, yep.
Okay.
The only thing you know is that you have 13 tattooed on the back of your neck. And the story... the story unravels from there. And thank God he can read Roman numerals because... But anyway.
What?
Bad joke, I'm tired. No, for me, the gunplay's fine. There's no ADS. It's a older shooting game from 2013 or 2003. The unique weapons, like you get a crossbow, you can get throwing knives, which I loved. Like that sound and just the presentation of everything. Like the cell shading is done so great, where it's like they use really thick black lines that outline everything, so it looks like comic book inks. And even like cool animations, like when the screen rattles, it's not like the whole screen shakes. It's the border of the screen that fades to white and kind of spins around, and it makes it look like it's panels. Like as a comic book fan, it's a dream. Like I would love to see, they did Ultimate Spider-Man cell shaded, but it didn't look like a comic book. This is based off of a graphic novel, and it literally looks like it came off the page, but you're controlling it. Like I can't say enough about this game, like how charming it is and how cool it is.
Yeah, it's like the charm of No One Lives Forever, but completely like unique. And cell shading was kind of like outplayed by then, but that game came out and like kind of got eyes back on it. It's just so a treat to watch somebody play. I remember watching Bryan play as a kid and having such as fun watching as playing it. And I remember specifically one of the panels where you're like crossbowed a guy and he's on top of a cliff. Like the paneling of him falling down with the like trailing off was so cool. It felt like charming, like Looney Tunes, but like gritty, because there's a freaking arrow hanging out of his head. So it was like graphic too. It's like an actual M-rated game. Like it's cool though, because it's not gory to be gory, but there is like visceral parts of it where it's like, I am shooting this guy, but it looks like a comic book. So it
body stay. Remember that? Yeah. Like if the stealth missions, you kill a guy, the body will stay.
I will say I've never played this game and I've seen it, and the cover was never just interesting. Mm-hmm. So I always walked past it and I was like, whatever. And so when I watched a video of it for this, I was like, wow.
Right.
I was like, what? Like the cell shading is so stylish, and I think a lot of people would agree that this game holds up because of graphically it does. I mean, like you said, there's points, especially in the stealth, it's dated. Like you have to clear the section, like you have to knock out every single dude and then go hide them, and it's slow to go. But stylistically, it's one of those games that like if it came out now, people would be all over it. I mean, especially in that era, like cell shading is ageless sometimes, where you go like Wind Waker. Or, especially that's why Paper Mario is so good, because of what it looks like. Or Jet Grind. Or, I believe Neo. All of those ends with you. World Ends With You. It's cell shaded. But, I mean, it's just the style of that game is so visually appealing that I'm looking at it like, ooh, and what really got me was the text. Like, when I was watching that video and it came up and the text popped up as, like, a sound effect, I'm like, this is awesome.
60s Batman.
So cool.
Without the boom, biff, bow.
Yeah. Yeah, I was like, yep, I want to play this. I don't want to know anything about the remaster and the remake. I want to play this one, so.
Yeah. Right. It's frustrating because people were like, clamoring for a remaster for so long. It's like Bryan said, this game does have a pretty big cult following, and it's one of those games like kind of people thought we'd never get, and we ended up getting it, and it was just garbage bin. But I remember shooting like the missile launcher, and just how cool of like watching the rocket go with panels and just the big boom when it hit. Like it's just a super charming game again. Multiplayer was fun. I remember playing multiplayer with you and just having a blast with it.
I think the story got it's praised enough where they actually had a TV miniseries based off of it. So the story's pretty interesting. I'm not going to sit here and say it's, the most amazing thing you're ever going to play. There's some, I feel like anytime Amnesia is an easy out, but it's enjoyable. Puts enough of a spin on things where fortunately there's a cliffhanger at the end. It's enjoyable enough that you'll be engaged with the story enough where it's not just the actual graphics getting you through the game. Definitely worth playing from start to finish.
Now, is there puzzles and stuff in this as well, or is it kind of just more like a traversing?
There's like dudes, some of the levels you have to go grab keys and stuff, but puzzles is a strong word.
Problem solving.
Yeah, I mean, I was like 13 when this came out and never got stuck. There's some of the stealth sections like they might give you fits, but yeah, hiding the bodies in the right place. Touch on a little bit the frustration of that.
Well, I mean, to touch on that too, like it's not the stealth where you get caught and you just kill them and it's fine. Like there are some levels where it looked like if you got caught, like you had to restart the level.
Yeah, they raise an alarm instantly. I remember the dude. Some of these levels are so long. The bank, when you're in the bank trying to get into this box, there's another like scene where you fail and the checkpoints are whack.
The snow level.
Yeah, there's one you snipe this guy and you got to sit there and wait for it to line up. The checkpoint isn't like when you're getting ready to pull the trigger. It's at the beginning of the dialogue, and it's like, oh, come on. That's why I was hoping like the remake would improve on some of the quality of life things, and it didn't, and it looks worse. There's no heart to the remake.
They edited a lot of stuff out too.
Because at the beginning of the game, it's like, oh my god, like it pulls no punches. It's
that beginning's shocking.
Yeah, it's like it's a cel-shaded game, but it's not gory. But like you get your Red Dawn moment right at the beginning of the game, where this lifeguard finds you on the beach and she takes you in, and you're laying on this cot all groggy, and she's like, "Oh, who's that pulling up to the window?" And it's just AK bullets just come ripping through, and blood's pouring out of her, and it's like that's how the game starts. So it's interesting because it's like it's hard, mature, but it's not gory. So I don't think
intense though. Yeah,
I think age group anybody can play it. There's not it's accessible even for stealth. Like it's cool because a lot of the weapons in the stealth missions, you'll find a beer bottle, you'll find a chair. It's kind of like Condemned. Funnily enough, like anything you see, you can use as a weapon. But yeah, the presentation's a big selling point for me. There's nothing that looks like it. There's other cel-shaded games, but this is literally a comic book come to life.
There is another 13 game on Steam. I think it's a visual novel to tie up the story.
Really?
There was enough demand for this game that people wanted a sequel, but we knew we weren't getting one. I own it. I have not played it. It's in my large Steam library, but I don't know if that ties up the cliffhanger or not.
You mean your large backlog?
Yeah. The NS is playing Morrowind, but it's fine.
Well, sorry, I'll turn Morrowind off.
Yeah, it's literally when we walked into today, but...
So that about wraps it up for the underrated games that are cheap. What do you guys think? Hey, the listeners, please let us know what you guys think on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and or the TikTok at Collecti-Bros Pod. I'm actually super excited to pass this off to Barry because it reveals a game I've recently been playing for our next episode. What you got, Barry?
So our next episode is in the Is It Worth It series, and it is arguably the greatest RPG of all time on the Super Nintendo, Chrono Trigger, which these two have never played until now. So we're going to go through and talk about that one. It is my choice, so we'll see, is the game worth the price? Why or why not?
Honestly, can't wait for this one. I'm not going to say anything because we have a whole episode about it, but I'm excited for this one, guys. Thanks for listening, guys, and see you in 2 weeks' time. Marry, fuck, kill, X-Men, Nate, go.
All right, so I think Mary and fuck are interchangeable.
Wait. Is this all X-Men?
This
Villains
is the
included?
X-Men universe,
All right,
Brotherhood,
All right.
X-Men, Xavier, Magneto, or X-Men appearances.
If it was in an X-Men titled comic,
So we
All
have
right.
quite a selection here.
is a big cast.
My
That's
Mary and fuck are interchangeable. It's Madeline Pryor and Emma Frost. I have to pick one just for this episode. I'll marry Emma Frost and I'm banging out Madeline Pryor. Cypher's gotta die. That's like, I'm more of an X-Men than Cypher. I'm sorry. Like, say Habla Espinol. It's not a mutant power. I'm sorry. Like,
Yeah, dude, you just learned languagues. Like, you did nothing special. Like,
Retains
don't get me-
them.
yeah, it's like,
But-
it's a gift. It's a different
you're
kind
like,
of gift,
oh
pal.
crap, Magneto's blowing up the Empire State Building. Quick, Wolverine, with your adamantium claws, get over here and fight Toad. Beast, Cyclops, Jean Grey, Cypher,
What mission do you send the guy on?
buckle up and wear a bullet-resistant vest, because what are you going to... Just
What
trash.
mission do you send him on?
Just get out. You're just holding up a roster spot for a better character. Barry. Go.
So I'm gonna marry Nightcrawler.
Ooh, Kurt Wagner?
He's a sweet guy.
And you know what? He can teleport me places, so that's fine.
Even walls will stick you in a wall.
Um,
Better help those bums from Condemned are around to bust you out.
I'm very hesitant to say, but I'm gonna bang Magic
Why are you hesitant to say this?
because I don't know
choice.
how old she is.
You get to pick this, brother. You're in charge.
No, I think in the newer comics it seems like she's older than the groups in
She's
the
old
new
enough.
X-Men series.
You're picking
Maybe-
an old enough Magic.
The
you're good.
current run of New Mutants, she's like an adult.
Okay, because that's who I'm thinking of.
So I was just reading it like
I
a
mean,
year
like,
ago.
bro, she was in hell, like time displacement. She's good.
Time displacement's doesn't count. I mean, that's how
Yeah.
we get in trouble for dating 1,000-year-old
She's a
dragons in the
5,000-year-old
bodies of
about your
children.
danger room.
Like we're not doing that. So when I think of Magic, I think of like current, as of right now, 2022, New Mutants,
You good?
Magic, and I'm gonna kill Cyclops.
It's currently 27.
Excellent choice.
Cyclops.
I backed it up 100%.
Magic 26?
27 in the current series, so you're good.
I bet. Okay. Not child magic for the record.
You guys are so wrong about Cyclops. He's the leader of the X-Men.
Boring.
Probably a generous
Great
lover.
character, and I think everyone knows a Cyclops in their life, and he's so hateable, and it's why he's a great character.
Well, that's why she wants to kill him also.
That's fine. He can go die. He's so boring.
Yep.
It's one of my favorite X-Men.
I mean, there are so many. If I had to choose one, there's not an X-Men that I inherently are just I want to kill them so bad. But if I had to pick one, like Cyclops, you're kind of boring. All you do is chase after Jean Grey.
You went Voltron without a head, huh?
I don't think Cyclops is. This is my uneducated opinion, but what's Cyclops without Jean Grey? That's boring. Be your own man.
Crybaby.
Be your own man.
You should read the Marvel Now run if anyone has a problem with Cyclops, and you'll completely change your opinion of him.
Is he still running after Jean Grey?
He's with Emma Frost.
He's like a modern Magneto in the newer books. They've done a really good job. Well, not the newest, but that Marvel Now run.
He's with Emma Frost.
However,
boring.
we're going 60s Cyclops, even 90s Cyclops. Dude, kill him.
I would understand if you're basing this on the X-Men cartoon, why you want to kill Cyclops.
X-Force, he was cool, redeemed himself, but still he was like, oh, Jean's with me.
He's a very layered character. He's got daddy issues too.
I mean, especially if you think about Cyclops in the first trilogy of the movies.
Movies and the cartoon do sure give you that
one.
I mean, that's a lot of people's first exposures, especially to X-Men, is Hugh Jackman, Wolverine, and Cyclops in those movies is just God.
Yeah, I'll second
Perfect dick. He plays that role so good.
Find me one person that was Team Cyclops over Team Wolverine in those X-Men movies, dude.
Yeah,
Come on.
he can go jump off a cliff. So that's my choice.
I support that strongly. All right, so
yeah, what's you got, Bryan?
Yeah, for Mary, I'm gonna take the cheat code and take Mystique.
I guess somebody had to.
Let me explain this to you guys really quick. So, flavor of the day, even if your wife, she's not gonna, be in the mood. Transform to somebody that's in the mood. You know what I'm saying?
Dude, okay, you're really killing me right now because you're just
do you know how much thought
Liara,
yeah.
Mystique. Okay,
I can get Liara with Mystique. Yeah, I can go universe.
Here's the thing, though. Here's the question. Here's the question I beg to ask.
Ask away.
Do you want Mystique because she's Mystique, or do you want Mystique because of everything she's not?
I'm sure she's a nice girl, however.
She's a horrible person, but Mystique had the balls enough to look a demon in the face and be like, let's have a baby. So
thank your husband for Mystique.
Yeah, okay, but look, why aren't you picking Mystique for Bang though? Isn't that the only reason that you
because of the variety? It's a purely business decision.
But she doesn't take the personalities over. It's not like a full assimilation of person. Oh my god.
I'm a simple man with simple needs.
Are you? Because you have a lot of complicated needs right in that one little package.
Doesn't sound that complicated.
Yeah. So honestly, the Bang was the hardest one. There's a lot of
and that's why you should have picked Mystique.
Yeah, but it's one time. Mystique is
all at once though. Just transform.
It's just a strictly educated business decision. So
I was under this impression that it was best Bang, but
not for
around
Bang,
for all
I
the
can
time.
Pick anybody.
All right.
That's the thing. So if you go off a certain Mystique, there's the one where she did manipulate their qualities as well and their personality. So I mean, dude, I've thought about this. As soon as we set this on the schedule, I was like, oh, X-Men. I gotta think. No, so for Bangable, you have a couple characters. You have Psylocke, Rogue, Scarlet Witch. Rogue wouldn't be fun. Would not be fun.
No, let's not cut out the options. We have to go straight to the answer.
She wouldn't be fun.
Straight to the answer.
Man, okay, fine. Scarlet Witch.
There you go.
Yes, it'd be fun.
Yes.
Powers. And if it's horrible, she can. Oh, it was great. Yeah, it was great for me too.
She's gonna do some witchy shit on you.
Yep.
You know that witchy shit.
And then kill, so I don't want to have the same answer as Nate, but yeah, what a waste of life, talent, writing. So just for the sake of switching it up, I'll go Gold Balls. His power is that he has gold balls that he shoots around.
Omega level threat, bro.
Yep, but switch it up. I would say Cypher, but we'll go Gold Balls.
There's a couple you could go with, but I don't think Gold Balls is a bad answer.
How many people think clamoring for a Gold Balls action figure?
When's that solo MCU movie coming out, dog?
Right.
Bro, that's a hard thing to put.
Brought to you by Bryan Michael.
Could you imagine if Disney was like, "Hey, we won't make an X-Men movie.
Better put Gold Balls.
Gold Balls. Come on."
Well, we need to change his name.
How many people put Mary or Bang Gold Balls on the list?
Completely retconned.
We're gonna have one angry person be like, "I love Gold Balls. You guys are wrong." Probably not.
That Bryan Michael Bendis
means one person's listening to this.
I almost picked Mary Colossus.
Good choice.
I was like, oh, I don't know.
Keep it in the
Bang
family,
Magic, that'd be
bro.
really
I needed
awkward.
Nightcrawler though.
Be really awkward
Nightcrawler's
if you
nice.
bang
He's my
Magic.
boy.
He's a nice guy.
He's like my OG favorite
Like,
X-Men.
hey, Colossus, I'm married to you, but I'm gonna go bang your sister out real quick.